Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. And my first order of business is to say moin to my friend Peter in Germany. Peter, I'm sorry I got your hat so dirty, but I wear it all the time. I would say almost all of you know that I have retired from working on musical instruments, but there are 3 scenarios where I will continue to work on musical instruments. Scenario number 1 is close friends, which will happen to be the case today. Scenario number 2 are relatives, whether they're friends or not. Scenario number 3 is if you book at least a one-night stay at one of our Airbnbs. We have 2 here right on the farm, so you'll stay right here and I will work on your instrument and return it to you and you can take it home with you. Now you will need to book the appropriate number of nights stay for however much work it needs. For instance, if you want a neck reset, you probably need a 2 or 3 night stay at minimum, and you need to be willing to possibly stay an extra night if something should happen that's not favorable. That generally doesn't happen, but you never know. It's not a perfect science, you know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, today's project is this. It's a, looks like Alvarez, is that right? I haven't even looked. I don't care what kind they are. It doesn't make any difference to me. All I know is they need to play good, and that's the problem with this one. It's not playing well. And it is an Alvarez, and just for the people who always like to know, this is a Kazuo Yari, serial number DY73CS. No, I take that back. That's the model number. I figured that had to be a serial number, as weird as it is. DY73CS, that's the model number. The serial number is 59033. So Alvarez Kazuo Yari. And it's signed, and the year in there it says 1985. So it's a beautiful guitar, very nice looking guitar, but the action is just a little high. For bluegrass musicians, generally we shoot for 80 and 90. That's 80 on the 12th fret on the on the high E string, and about 90 on the bass E string. That's 90 thousandths or 80 thousandths. Roughly 2 millimeters, 2.25 millimeters on the big one, and 2 millimeters on the small one. Talking strings there. You know, talking is not always easy. Well, we're going to get into this right after this. Okay, in a situation like this, I kind of already know what I'm getting into, but for the benefit of those of you who might want to do this yourself, I'll show you from start to finish how to accomplish what I'm going to do here. Let me first see if we're in tune. So we're just going to tune it up to standard pitch. While we're at it, let's just check intonation, because I didn't check the intonation. So the way you check intonation, and maybe I'll turn this down and you can see the tuner, hopefully. And I'll zoom it in, but I hate doing the zoom in because I always forget, and then you can't see something that I'm trying to show you. But anyway, maybe you can see the needle there, and I've got it turned slightly toward the camera. So you hit it open, and you should see where the needle goes open. I'm going to try to get it dead center, but even if you don't get it perfectly dead center, you need to know where the needle is. That's pretty close to dead center, just a hair flat, but I mean like a minor hair. Okay, so that's important because I'm going to note it at the 12th fret. And so you see we're actually sharp. Now if it was just that minor bit hair, it would be perfect. sharp by a good 10 cents. So that means for the most part this saddle is too close that way. It needs to go back just a hair. Also, it can be sharp because the string is too high. So it's not terribly sharp, but 10 cents is enough to notice. So I'm hoping that when we drop the strings down, that may improve that. I would say it'll probably improve it to maybe 5 cents if we're lucky. And 5 cents is not too bad. You know, if you're within 5 cents or less, I would say you're probably good enough for most people, but you know, your professionals will probably want it better than that. But it just depends on whether or not you want to spend the extra money to make this happen back here, and that's quite a job to change that. A lot of people will say you can change it up here. No, that's wrong. Completely wrong. I disagree with that theory completely, 100%. And the reason is all of your frets, every single fret is measured from this point right here. If you start messing with this, you screwed up every fret on your fretboard. And I know some people say it works. Yeah, I know, but it's more of a compromise than a perfection. And it really is a compromise, in my opinion. So the way you get it perfect is you change it back here. And when I say perfect, you get it as close to perfect as is reasonable. That is a little bit sharp, but not terribly sharp. Okay, so I'm just curious. Now let's see, we'll go on the high E string. Actually, pretty darn close on the high E string. It might even be a hair flat. Okay, so we're going to check the height of the strings now, and I have my gauge here. This is an in size number 4630-1E. It's a machinist tool. I have a link to this on the products I use page of my website, www.rosastringworks.com. Then go on the products I use page, and you'll have to scroll down quite a ways to find it, but it's there. It's just a taper gauge is really what it's called. And it measures in thousandths of inches. And so there's already 100 and it's still high. There's 110, so we're 20 thousandths too high. We're 20 thousandths too high. Let's double check that. Yeah, we're right real close to 20 thousandths too high. So here I think we're pretty close to being right on. There's 80, and really you could probably make a case that this is 85, but that's so close that it's hardly worth even worrying about. 5 thousandths of an inch might sound at first like that's a lot, but it's not. It's almost nothing. A sheet of paper, the thickness of a sheet of paper is approximately that kind of thickness. 4 thousandths, 5 thousandths, somewhere in there. And you might think, well, that's a lot, but it's not. Look at the edge of a piece of paper and see how thin that is. It's crazy thin. It's hardly worth worrying about. But we are quite thick here. You know, 20 thousandths would be about 5 sheets of paper, roughly. So that's a big difference. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to do that up at this end. First thing we're going to do is just remove the strings. By the way, the taper gauge is not cheap. They're expensive because it's a machinist tool and it's very accurate to measure within thousandths of an inch. So don't expect to get it for $5 or $10. It's way more than that. Okay, there's multiple ways to skin this cat. And the way I'm going to skin the cat, at least try, is not to, I will have to remove the strings back here at the saddle, but I don't plan to remove them up here just to save time. And basically, I'm doing these things gratis. I don't charge my relatives and my close friends for work. So I try to do it the most economical, cheapest way. First thing I'm going to do is look down this fretboard and just see, does it look good and flat? Do I see any high spots? Now, if you're not used to doing this, you might not be able to detect the minor little differences. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I can pretty much see one single high fret. Not everybody can do that. So what I do is I just pick up the instrument, take the strings off to the sides like this, and I look down it, and I point it at something white or light or something like that. Generally a light works the best because you can see the glow off of the frets. And this one really looks pretty darn good. Really does look pretty darn good. Now originally it had a little bit too much underbow on this. This is part of the story that you haven't heard. She brought it to me, it had a little too much underbow. We thought, well, maybe that'll help. It doesn't. Generally your truss rod is not, let me say this really hard and loud, your truss rod is not there to adjust your action. It is there to straighten your neck. That's all it's for. People think, oh, it'll lower my strings. Oh, it'll do this. Oh, it'll do that. Can it lower your strings a little bit? Sometimes, under the right conditions, yes. But that's not what it's there for. It's there to take the underbow out of your neck. This one had too much underbow. We thought that might help it, and it did. It helped it a couple thousandths of an inch, but it's not enough to hardly make a difference. But that also straightened the neck some, and the frets look really good now. So I'm going to take my fret file that I basically made the handle on this. It's just a piece of maple glued to a mill bastard file. Now a mill bastard file, they're not all created equal. First of all, I'd get one that was a nickel center, one made in the USA if you can. This one does say made in the USA. A lot of them are cheap junk, so try to get a good one. Secondly, none of them that I've seen in my whole 40 years, none of them are perfectly flat. Everybody argues that point and says, they're flat, they're just as flat as they can be. No, they're not. If you've got a critical eye and you look down them, there will always be a tiny underbow. Now when I say tiny, I'm talking a thousandth or two. Only a thousandth or two. You've got to have a critical eye to see that. You want to turn the dish side up. You want to turn the convex side down, the concave side up, and you glue it to your board. If you don't do that, you won't have as good a results as you would like to have. That's very important. Even though it's only a thousandth or two, it matters in fret leveling. All right, so I'm putting very light pressure on this. Let me turn the camera back down. I'm putting very light pressure on these frets, but I can feel a high fret because it'll drag. Really, I'm not feeling any dragging. It's feeling very good. So I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time doing fret leveling on this. It feels really good. I mean, I'm surprised how good it feels. Most of the time I can feel a lot of problems. I don't feel hardly anything on this. So I'm not going to spend and waste a lot of time on it because there's no point in it. I will take some 600 and I will polish up the frets a little bit. Now, I don't always do this, but for my friends, I do this sometimes. Or special people, the people that drive a long way to get here or something. This is 600. Now, I'm going to just rub these a little bit. Now, you don't want to go crazy on this, because if you lower the height of that fret, then you've messed it up for this one. If they're like more than a thousandth of an inch off, they'll buzz when you get your action down real low. So you don't want to go crazy this way. Normally I do this. I actually level this way and buff them this way. And the reason I do that is because it keeps all the frets in the same plane much better than the single deal. But I'm trying to polish these frets. I've got 600. It takes off very, very little. And I'm just trying to clean them up and make them look nice. And I don't want to take anything off of them. I'm just shining them up a little bit. The reason I don't want to go the other way with these is because I would have to dress the whole fretboard then. And our fretboard looks fine. I don't see any reason to dress the whole fretboard. In other words, I would scrape it with a single edge razor blade to clean it up. If you go this way, that's what you have to do. I'm not wanting to go to that much effort. So I'm just going to do the easy way and just make it look nice. Shine them up a little bit. And by the way, as I'm doing this, I'm not just staying on the top. In fact, I don't stay on the top much at all. I'm sliding on both sides of the fret and kind of actually rubbing the edges of the fret. The top gets affected as well, but I'm really working on the edges of the fret more than I'm working on the top. You can't tell that in the video. I already know that because I've made a lot of videos. But I'm actually on both sides of the fret. I'm rocking from one side to the other. Again, mainly because I don't want to affect the height of the fret. I was really amazed at how level these frets are. I'm kind of blown away, especially as old as it is. It's a very old guitar, and, well, I say very old, it's old, you know, and the frets are almost perfect on it. So no point in doing more work than you have to. And again, both sides of the fret, all the way up. I don't really work on the top of the fret very much at all. All right, I think I'm going to call that good enough. And I could have, and really should have, just gone ahead and taken these strings loose back here to begin with, but I'm used to doing that, so it's not a big deal for me. For you, it would have been smarter just to pull these pins. We're going to pull the pins. Now, I use these nippers, but I use them, I've been doing it for 40 years. I don't squeeze the pin. I just put it under there and lift up. These are universal. They'll fit any peg that's out there, where all these other peg tools, they don't always work on every kind of, you know, peg. So these work on every kind of peg. Okay, that string there is stuck. Got a little groove there down in there. Okay, so we know we're 20 thousandths too much on this side, so that means we need to take 40 thousandths off to nothing. That's really what it means. Now, I also use these to lift these out, and if you do it very carefully, you'll not leave any marks at all. I can tell this is bone. I can also tell it fits the saddle very well, which is almost unheard of. Almost always I can feel them wiggle. I don't want any wiggle in the saddle. This one fits snug as a bug in a rug, so there's no reason to try to improve it. It's already made out of bone, so an antler isn't going to be an appreciable difference. So we've got a fairly easy job here, I believe. Now what I'm going to do is take a little black marker and mark on this bottom edge here. Just make a tiny mark. I'll go ahead and make the mark over here too, but I don't think we need to do anything on this side. Now I'm going to take a set of calipers here, and I'm going to go to 20 thousandths of an inch, and it's almost nothing, guys. It seems like a ton. Actually, I need to go to 40 thousandths. I need to take off twice what it is. We're 20 thousandths high, so I need to take 40 thousandths off to drop at 20 thousandths, because we're at the halfway point right here. So there's 40 thousandths, which seems like a ton. Look how tiny that little crack is. It's very tiny. But that will do what we need to do. All right, so now I'm just going to take and scratch right here and get 40 and mark my 40 thousandths. I think you can see my little mark there, hopefully. Hopefully you can see it. All right, so I'm just, basically all I'm going to do is push this into the sander with this edge in first, not touching down here, and try to square this perfectly up where this side is just touching when I get to that mark. That's what my goal is. All right, I'm going to show you how I try to do that.
Now I take this little piece of plastic, slide it up against the wheel, because if you don't, there's a crack there, and this thing can get pulled down in that crack, and that's not good. So having this little piece of plastic is very good insurance. So here we go. I think we accomplished what we tried to accomplish. We got right to that line and we really left that exactly like it was. So I think it's perfect. Let's go see if it works. Assuming the footage turns out over there at the sander, and I think it probably will. You just saw me sand this down. I showed you how I do that. And we're going to put it back in place. We really should be just about perfect now. I am going to sand a bevel on these pegs. They have a tiny bevel, I mean a very tiny bevel, but I'm going to put a little bit bigger bevel on there. And the reason I do that is when you're pushing these down, if there's a bevel on there, then it'll go past that little ball and it won't push the ball down, which sometimes it'll pop your pin out later. I've been in jam sessions where I've seen people's pins pop right out. And it's because that ball's sitting on the end of the pin. If you put a bevel on the end here, it can't do that. And you can also, pull up on your string as you're pushing this in, and it'll go right past that ball with that bevel. These have a tiny bevel, but a little bit more won't hurt anything. Okay, here's how I go about putting the bevel on. So hopefully you can see there that little bit more of a bevel, and that just is a good thing. No negatives to that at all. Okay, now that you've seen me do the beveling, now we're going to put the strings back on. We'll go one string at a time. Now, I push the string down, I push the pin past it, and before I lock this pin all the way down, I'm pulling up on this. So I'm lifting up on the string and pushing the pin now down as good as it can go. That's my method, and it's a good solid method. So put the string in there, put the pin past it, and lift up, and then pull up, push down hard. She did provide new strings for this, but I'm not putting them on because, to be quite honest with you, the strings she has are not my favorite kind of strings. I prefer phosphor bronze strings, and she has just straight bronze. So I just am not going to put those on. I'm just going to leave these strings on there, and she can change her strings if she wants to. I'm going to make a recommendation that she switch to phosphor bronze. They just sound better, they last longer than standard bronze, and there's just no reason to use the standard bronze anymore, in my opinion. I know some people just like nostalgia and all that, and that's fine. All right, I'm gonna
not waste any time on the video here tuning this. Let me get her tuned up and we'll see how we did. My friends, I got to be honest with you. We didn't fully accomplish what we set out to do, and I'm surprised. I really am absolutely surprised. I kind of floored, because that's one of the very first times that's ever really happened. It's hardly any lower. Oh, it's lower. It's 10 thousandths lower. But we didn't get the 20 thousandths so we only got about half of what we were going for. So we're at 100 thousandths now, and I was wanting 90, but we're at 100. Now that's really close. I gotta be honest, that's not far. But we didn't accomplish the goal. And this side is exactly the same as it was. So what I'm gonna do, because I know a gal, they typically like really low action, and I get it. So I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to go 20 thousandths on this side I'm going to take off, and I'm going to take off 10 on this side to drop at 5 over here. So 20 to 10, that's the marks I'm going to put on it. Yeah, I got to unstring it again. Yeah, I got to do it over again, but that's just the nature of this beast. I might also add that that's just one more argument why I don't necessarily put on new strings right away. Because you're doing a lot of up and down when you're doing a real precise setup. So, you can always put new strings on. That's not part of a good setup, in my opinion. Well, new strings makes it sound better, sure, I get it. But that's not what it takes to make it play better. What it takes to make it play better is doing exactly what I'm doing here. Now, by the way, this is just a tip. I keep all the pins in order. Now, I've had a few guitars where it really mattered. I would say 95% of your guitars, it don't matter. You can mix your pins up. But on a few guitars, it's a good idea to keep them straight. So I always keep them straight. But not only does that keep them straight, but it keeps them where I don't lose them. They don't fall off the table or anything. So it's just a very convenient way to kill two birds with one stone. All right. And I don't really have to take that last string out to do this, so I'll just do it like that. Okay, so now we got to mark 20 and 10. So again, I'm going to get out the little black marker here, if I can find it. Here it is. And again, I probably don't need to increase this. It'll probably work just like it is, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on there anyway. It might show up a little better for you. Now, I'm going to drop this down to 20 now. So there's 20 thousandths. Now this is almost nothing. Look how tiny 20 thousandths is. It's like nothing. So I'm going to try to put a mark here. It's not even easy to mark it, to be honest. There it is. And now 10 thousandths is, I would say, next to impossible to mark. But I'm going to try to get it. And I might be able to. Can you see how thin 10 thousandths is? So 5 thousandths is nothing, But I'm going to try to get 10 thousandths here. It ain't easy. In fact, I can't get it. Really hard. Well, I can't really get it, but I kind of got a little scratchy mark right there that I'm just going to take that away. You can probably see the mark on this side, I think. It's pretty minimal though, so I'm just going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm not going to film this part of it. I'll be right back. Well, I feel fairly confident that I accomplished the goal. I kind of feel like we ought to be able to make it happen this time. Let's see if we did. All right, I'll string her back up and I'll show you in a second. Well, my friends, I'm happy to report this time we are on the money, Sonny. We are exactly where we're supposed to be, 90 thousandths. Right there, right on the money. You know, it bounces, and there's 90, there's 85, it's still bouncing. 90, it stops bouncing, it's right there. This this side, I'll be honest, is a hair over 80. It's like 83 maybe, something like that. So it dropped a little tiny bit, but not enough to really make much difference. And 2000s, I'm telling you, is nothing. It's nothing. You probably wouldn't even be able to feel it. If there was a 2000s dent right here, you probably couldn't feel it. I mean, it's that tiny. I think we're done, at least. I hope we are. Let's see if it affected the intonation any. Hopefully it did a little bit, but probably isn't going to be spectacular. Let me zoom in. Try to get where you can see the needle here. And let me get her tuned up real good. It's pretty close to center. Let's see where we're at. Right on the money, Sonny. Right on the money. Right on the money. Honestly, that one's a hair flat, but let's see if it's even in tune. There you go. Right on the money. About 2 cents flat, but again, that's almost nothing. Okay, the E is right on the money. That's so close that you could pretty much just say that's perfect. I mean, is it perfect? No, there's no such thing. We all know that, but it's as close to perfect as it needs to be. So let's see how she plays now. I would assume going to be pretty easy. My fingers are so sore I can barely bend them into position. Very good. Sounds really good. She shouldn't have any problems with putting a capo on this thing. The action's really nice. The action up here, by the way, is very good. Let's just double check it. I checked it already off camera when she was here the first time. She dropped this off a week ago. Well, actually a week ago today. And we played live on our YouTube channel a week ago today. And I checked the intonation, or the action up here already, and it was pretty good. At hair high, just a hair high. It ought to be better now since we've lowered the back there. Yeah, it's seriously right on the money. Back when you press it down, you don't see anything move. So it's perfect. It really is perfect. I use a Martin thin pick. This is a 16 thousandths. Remember how thin that is. It's tiny. It's perfect. Now, if you really want to get super nitpicky, the Martin thin pick you shouldn't see any movement in your bass string. And then by the time you get down here, if you really are super picky, it raises this bottom E string just a fraction of a hair. I mean, like you can barely tell it's actually squeezing in there tight enough to raise the string. If you go much more than that, you're going to start getting buzzes and things. This is just about as perfect as you could set up a guitar right now. I changed my whole life, no more corporate strife. Put the alarm clock away in the drawer. No more conference calls and no meetings in the halls, and no business to conduct in a bar. No self-serving boss, nor the threat of the loss of the paycheck that I've earned 8 to 5. 'Cause I'll be out on my ranch where I can reach the first branch of that corporate tree grown from on high. I don't own it, I just manage its worth. It's a small slice of heaven placed down here on earth. I care for his trees and I water his sod. I don't own it, I just rent it from God. Well, I know they won't miss me when I tell them I'm history. That's okay, for I've got a plan. And there'll be no regret, no hard feelings nor debt. We're all doing the best that we can. So here is my last word. Some may think it absurd, but I know that one day you'll find it's better to leave than to stay and to grieve. Instead of a paycheck, you'll have peace of mind. I don't own it, I just manage its worth. It's a small slice of heaven placed down here on earth. I care for his trees and I water his sod. I don't own it, I just rent it from God. Well, that's an original song that I wrote about my early retirement. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I would sure appreciate it. And if you make a comment, that always helps the algorithm too. So do what you can to help me out. I appreciate it. We will see you on the next video. Take care, my friend.